Hey everyone, Gerry Brown again on the Groove Don't Lie podcast. Episode number 2 with Emilie Pons coming to you. Take it away, Emilie. All my other questions, I have to forget because what you've experienced and how you explained it, it's priceless.
Mm-hmm.
And again, one of my good friends, he does conferences. He knows how to put these together.
Mm-hmm.
And to put together a groove conference, of groove conferences around the planet,
Mm-hmm.
and with those same qualities that you've just spoken about, I'm sure that you could say the same something similar for the music that comes from Cuba, the music that comes from Puerto Rico, the music that, probably, comes from Asia, because it's very different than here. It's always a collective. It's not just, everybody's playing together and there's this conversation
Mm-hmm.
that is going on between the musicians.
Mm-hmm.
It's a conversation between the singers, and it's a conversation between the dancers and what they're doing, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure it has a deep meaning
Mm-hmm.
with rhythm and grooves. There's more of a possibility that people can work together.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. There's something to be said for melodies, and I think that we also want to make sure that we honor the people who write and sing incredible melodies. And I think that it's an aspect of music and in music production also present in the Arabian Gulf that should not be undermined either. So, yes, I think that rhythms in Kuwait, in Saudi Arabia, in many African cultures, and also in India are so important. But let's not forget the amazing, you know, contributions of lyricists, of poets, of composers, of yeah, songwriters. And then also let's not forget the incredible diversity of scales that exist in the world because there is microtonal music which is fantastic, and so we want to also know or make sure that we understand the value and the essential nature of melodies, and in addition to rhythms, and of how melodies are approached and written in different parts of the world. And in the East, I'm very impressed with the use of maqam, in an Arabic music, different scales, different systems as well. And also in Indian music, it's incredible what musicians and songwriters do with melodies and also with the scales available to them, scales that we don't use so much in the West. And then there are so many amazing vocalists in the Arab world, in India, in Pakistan, and they really explore the possibilities of the voice and of melodies and of different types of tones that we don't use so much here. So I would say let's not forget that as well, that yes, rhythms and groove matter, but so do voices, and so do scales and tones and microtones. For instance, the qanun in the Arabic musical tradition is such an important instrument as well. And the qanun is so interesting. It's both rhythms and melodies. And I like it so much because it's so rich. It's kind of like the piano, but the qanun is tuned in a way where, you can play like these notes that are so much harder to produce on the piano. So what I'm saying is that some sounds and some scales are so rich in the East, they can be played and produced with the specific instruments which are unique to the region. And it's a little harder for us here in the West to do the same.
وانا البارحة يا سعود عيني شقاوية وعدت النجم سهران من فرقة الغالي وانا البارحة يا سعود عيني شقاوية وعدت النجم سهران من فرقة الغالي وانا فرح بفارسين واحب بقارية ومن حبيبي شتين في البال لا زالي وانا البارحة يا سعود عيني شقاوية.
That would be my former boss, Stevie Wonder.
Absolutely.
He would be incredible to bring him to these places.
Oh, lately I have become friends with many of these musicians that I ended up, interviewing. And Abdullah Al-Mershid is one of them. And Abdullah and we are always chatting. I've been starting to send him music from here because I'm curious about what he thinks. And, we here have specific musical references that are so obvious to us, like Stevie or Miles or, the great performers. And then to him, these are new sounds because he hasn't really um listened to that music before. He hasn't necessarily been exposed to it. And so
Mhm.
what I've been starting doing is I've been starting to text him and to send him music that I love from here. The other day, I think I sent him a piece by a very famous musician here, and he didn't know him. What was so interesting is that Abdullah had never heard that. Oh, Keith Jarrett. I sent him some
Oh,
music
teacher. Wow.
by Keith Jarrett, I think. And he said, "Oh, I don't know him." And I was thinking, this is really interesting because our frame of reference is so different. And we assume that we know we have our idols, we have the people that we've been, adoring and that have been really leading musical tastes as well and musical expertise, and they have been models. But it's fascinating to see that in other countries, these models are irrelevant. And in fact, they're not even part of their musical vocabulary. And I find it so interesting because I was thinking, it's such a great lesson in
Wh-
humility.
If from this side you have Stevie Wonder and Herbie Hancock,
Hmm.
and they're meeting these other people from the other side of the planet, and they
Absolutely.
and they don't really know of each other. But what could happen?
Yes, exactly. And that's why I was starting to send American music to Abdullah and just see what he said. And, it's so funny. Our tastes are very different. I don't know if he likes Keith Jarrett, you know. I don't know if it speaks to him. And I understand, with completely different scale system, different understanding of the melodies and what melodies mean. Melodies mean different things in different contexts. Rhythms mean different things in different contexts. And I think this is what I started realizing. I was thinking, wow, it's so interesting how taste is formed and how taste happens, how we acquire musical taste. I love, so many music from the Arabian Peninsula, from East Asia. I just went to Japan and I went to a traditional Japanese performance and I was blown away by the melodies. And in fact, there also, each song was based on a poem. So there are so many interesting connections in different Asian countries, West Asia, East Asia. I just enjoy trying to see what music means in different parts of the world and why. And what it doesn't mean too. As I said, for Abdullah, Kiss Jarrett doesn't mean much. So,
I've had this vision of these type of conferences, groove conferences,
mhm,
and not only from the musical side, but then when you bring the aspect of the lyrics, the poems, and the dance,
mhm,
there could be people who may listen and they say, "That's a great idea."
mhm,
I'm not saying that we have to do it first, but I'm just saying that to me, what we've talked about, it is a blueprint
mhm,
of what is possible. And you
mhm.
could do this on a global scale, and people would absolutely come to this. They would want to be a part of this conversation globally.
What I have been understanding slowly over time, as I have been traveling to all of these countries, is that, some musicians are interested in Western music. For instance, I interviewed these really cool rock bands in Lebanon when I started working as a producer for PRI. And this is a Syrian band, a trio called Tanjad,
Yes.
and they love Western rock music. And so they want to emulate that type of music. And they really, but then they also add some, Arabic melodies to their compositions, which is really beautiful. So it's a really powerful fusion. But I would say also that many local musicians don't care so much about what we do here. And they are very much, they really very identify with their traditions, their music, etc., etc. So not every musician and not every percussionist necessarily, they may not all relate to what groove means to us here. There are different religious, you know, positions, different religious belief systems that are really important to take into account. So I think we should be very mindful of culture in general. Music, it has a very unique and complicated place, for instance, in Muslim cultures, you know. And so there are variations amongst the different Muslim countries as far as their relationship with music. There are a lot of things to take into account, I think. And I've been trying to bring a Kuwaiti ensemble here in the United States. Well, right now it's impossible, unfortunately, because, of the war, and movement is very hard for Kuwaitis. The airport has been closed for weeks. Um, but, that's exactly what I've been thinking about, as well. And also exposing Americans to these different types of music because they don't know them either. We're so ignorant here about these types of musics. We don't necessarily relate to them. We don't understand their function. We don't understand the role they play, that these types of musics play in Arabic societies. We don't have that kind of knowledge. And I think, educating people would be wonderful because it's so important to stop, stereotypes and build bridges but around meaningful activities and around culture. So while we should be mindful of cultural differences, we should also, of course, continue trying to build these bridges, especially now, especially during a war. We should remember that there's so much talent in the Middle East. I think this is something that when you have a war, any type of conflict, we forget that region, there are so many instruments in the Middle East, and each instrument has a function. And then some instruments are only played by men, some instruments are only played by women. It's fascinating, all the layers around music, the function of music in society, and what is the place of women in music, and why do they play these instruments and not these others, and why can men only play these and not these other percussions. We forget that
Totally forgotten.
the cultural production of that region is vast and has historically been humongous. And so maybe for me, I feel like it's an act of resistance, perhaps, or that's maybe my way of responding to the war, is perhaps trying to continue emphasizing the richness of the region through music.
I think that's a perfect bridge. I don't know if you have or any of your friends have any contacts that could possibly be, I don't know if it would be helpful or harmful, but if they have any contacts with anybody in the UN who embraces music and the languages that come from the music, and that people say, well, music is a universal language, and melodies, language, dance, language, conversations. I hope someone, there will be someone maybe from the UN that could trigger more of this so that conferences that we've talked about, that they could happen, because we can't keep going on like we're going on.
Yes, Jerry, I think that there are some branches at the United Nations, perhaps, that focus specifically on culture, but I'm not very knowledgeable in terms of everything that the UN encourages and puts together. I have been to the UN many times, but I'm not knowledgeable as to the cultural missions. UNESCO
It's go-
has named many instruments and many musical genres as intangible heritages of humanity. So, for instance, many different musical styles and dancing styles are kind of officially protected by the UNESCO and maybe by the UN. So there is definitely a push towards making sure that, you know, different styles, like I think Rai, which is Algerian popular music, I think it's one of these intangible heritages of humanity. I think there is a community who works around protecting different aspects of cultural production in the world. So yeah, I don't really know who takes care of this and who does it. I also, there's one more thing I would say. What does it actually mean when a Western institution and a Western organization decides that something should be preserved? Who does it benefit and who is it being preserved for? Is it being preserved for the actual makers of that music and of these instruments, or is it being preserved for other people? Kind of like, I also wonder, like, who benefits from it? Who is it for?
Great question.
Yeah, and is there commodification, like in the act of preserving a musical style or an instrument, is that style or that instrument being commodified? And to which end? I'm just wondering, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just thinking, because for instance, there isn't an institution in the East or in the global South that says, oh, we need to preserve R&B.
I was
We,
just going to say R&B.
yeah, we need to preserve, you know,
Hip hop.
rap,
Oh,
rap.
rap.
Yeah. And so why? I don't know. And I really like the idea of cultural preservation, I think it's essential. But I also wonder the politics of cultural preservation. Um, like, why is there something kind of patronizing around it?
I could imagine that question coming up in a conference. Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about that. Actually, I'm talking about that next week in London. I'm
Oh,
talking about Native American and Kurdish music for a panel on cultural preservation.
would you please, if there's a link
Okay.
for that, would you please send it to me?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, not next week. It's in 2 weeks.
Whenever,
Okay.
whenever. I would love to hear that, to see that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's exciting. I love Kurdish music as well. They have a type of blues which is called denbej. It's amazing. Yeah.
Emily, you're amazing.
Thanks.
I thank the universe for meeting, for how I got attracted and seeing, you know, what you've said. I saw some images, and by the grace of the universe, and here we are speaking about this. So no coincidence.
Well, thank you, Jerry. No coincidence, but a lot of Kuwait.
A lot of no. That's a great line. That's a great line. No coincidence, but a lot of Kuwait. Emily, thank you so much. Thank you. Hey everyone, that was Emilie Pons, and she's given us a fresh way to listen. One where rhythm isn't just part of the music, but often the starting point. Emily, we thank you for your time and appearing here on the Groove Don't Lie podcast. Everyone, stay tuned because there are other goodies coming down the line. Stay tuned. Peace.